All right, so elephant in the room. It's been 6 months. We've been gone. That's kind of a lot of time. So, long story short, I've been really busy. I've been up to a lot of shit. It's been holidays. It's now January. I have a full-time job. A lot of stuff going on. But I've actually been working on stuff. And Blake, to his credit, has been keeping himself available for like every week. He hits me up. He says, "Hey, just so you know, I'm available Monday through Friday if you want to record anything." But I feel like I've made a lot of progress.
So what progress, pray tell, has been made, my good man?
After the last update, basically the first thing I worked on was the pause screen. And it's kind of one of those things that you think is going to be really easy, and you're going to put it together really quick, and it's going to look great. But, I'm sure if anyone's tried doing that themselves, they realize that it's not actually that easy, and it's kind of frustrating. So I was able to put something together that looked good pretty quick, because that's what I do for work. That's what I've done for a long time, is I'm an illustrator, I do design. So that part's not super difficult. What is difficult is the coding and trying to get things to work with the established system, and just figuring out how Unity does everything. I'm not very good at scene management. That's like half of it. It's not a very complicated thing, but it seems like every time I try and use it, it slaps me in the face. But I've done this in like my previous game project, but it's still mostly played pretty poorly, and the setup is a little bit different. In the previous one, it was like a separate UI group that I would just activate and deactivate, whereas this one, it's like I need a separate 3D scene, just because of the nature of like the background and the movement of the characters on the tube. There's like lighting, post-processing, everything that needs to change, whereas in that previous game project, those would stay the same, and I would just kind of avoid that issue altogether because I had less knowledge of Unity or how things really worked. So I put everything in a test scene, and I just load it on top of everything else. I got it working. One thing that was fucking me up is, to get it to change, I have to tell Unity to recognize a different camera, because since it's two different scenes, when you load the next scene, it doesn't just switch over to that camera, because then you have two active, so you have to disable the one in the previous shot. And because they're both tied to a different post-processing series of effects, you also need to change the volume profile, which sounds simple, but it was really difficult to figure out how to actually put that into the code, how to like declare that variable, and it needs like a separate directory declared right at the beginning, which, of course isn't on anything or said anywhere except for like buried in a forum from 10 years ago. So
that sounds much more complex than you're making out to be, but yeah.
Yeah, but I got it working. It looks good. I even put in some of Mario's other costumes from the game. They're the armor sets that are illustrated, but they're never shown like in the sprite. I added this coin block, plus functionality. You hit it, there's a little bump animation. That was all of July, and it's January already, or February at this point. So there's a lot left. So after that, I worked here and there on some stuff, and I took a break. I went to New England, across the country, for a wedding. I was gonna travel a bit while I was over there, but I got COVID, and a lot of other people at the wedding got COVID.
Licking too many door handles?
Yeah, licking too many door handles. So I was just kind of stranded over there for like a week or two. I wasn't super sick or anything, but I felt pretty drained for a long time.
Jet lag, I bet.
Yeah, there's jet lag and, the sickness, so it was difficult to kind of warrant creative work on top of the work that I already have to do.
God, artists are so lazy.
So lazy.
They get
I should
sick
just make
and then
NFTs,
they're like, I don't really
right?
want to work. Please, can we start an
Yeah,
NFT line and actually make some fucking
That's
crazy
awful.
money?
Once September rolled around, I was feeling a little bit better, still feeling pretty drained, but I was still doing some stuff. I managed to sculpt and set up some assets for a map scene. Maybe.
Wait, which map scene?
Like when you go into the map, you can go to
like
different levels.
Oh, okay.
I also put together some other Mushroom Way scenes. There's a couple of them that just all use the same assets.
Oh, yeah.
I introduced flowers, rocks, and I made all the bushes do this nice little wind sway. And the
Are you showing that on screen right now?
Yeah, I'm showing it on screen.
Oh.
And the Unity shader graph isn't something I'm super familiar or comfortable with, but I had to kind of learn a little bit about it to get that to work. But now in the timeline of what I'm recalling, it's October, and in the previous several years, I've done this thing called Inktober, which, for those of you who don't know, is an annual art community event where they draw one thing every day of October based on like a set list of prompts. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I'm sure you did all of them.
I try to. Every year, I try and do way too much. You know, I started with one digital character every day, and then that became like a whole page of my sketchbook the next year. And then the year after that, it became a whole digital illustration every day. And then last year, I tried to do that again, and I got like 2 days in. And this year, I didn't learn any lessons because I tried to do something big again. Model, sculpt, texture, rig, animate, render, and composite a separate Super Mario RPG character or enemy every day.
Oh, that sounds doable.
But it actually went pretty well for a little while. I got started a little late and I missed some days, but I ended the month with 21 out of 31, which isn't bad.
That's like
it's a lot of work.
I don't know what grade that'd be.
A D.
That is pretty bad.
It's a D, but I feel like that's a lot. Inktober 2022 won't actually be finished until February-tober 2023. But jumping back a bit, in October, King Crazy reached out to me about the possibility of working on a little animated Twitch screen for his streams.
Hi, Crazy.
Hi, Crazy. He had seen my work on Twitter, loved it, and just wanted something similar. He wasn't really aware of the game aspect of everything originally, so I brought that up, and he got really excited, and we decided to, instead of just doing an animation, doing a playable game in the same style. So I shot over some sketches, ideas, got a sign off, and I started modeling his mascot character, starting with a base of my old Bowser model. But time flew by, I eventually got everything set up, mostly debugged, and while it was mostly smooth sailing, a few of the plans I proposed actually required me to solve some issues I had been putting off before, like again the Unity shader graph. I had to use that for the lava. I had to figure out how to do smoke, which wasn't like super necessary, but it made the coffee machine look cool.
That's good. That's worth it.
And it's kind of embarrassing, but I didn't know how to make a timer.
Ooh, everyone roast him. Everyone roast him.
In the UI, and I didn't know how to make that show up in the environment. You know, you think about it, and it's pretty simple. It's like, oh, you know, you just have a function that every second you just make the number go down by a second. But how do you make that in like the time format? You know, you divide it by 60, but I guess.
What is time?
What is time? Yeah, there's just a lot of things I had to figure out, which were kind of like obvious, or that I would have had to figure out anyway, which I know now. So everything turned out great. I got to make a lot of the regular assets for the regular game, as well as making this great project. December came after this, because that's basically what I did all of November, and I took a lot of the assets that I made for that project, and I started building out Bowser's Keep. I started building that out, but I quickly ran into some old roadblocks, namely the intro scenes with the Terrapin and Bowser require precise edits and understanding of the battle system that I put together in June. There's issues of timing, character integration, variables carrying over between scenes, controlling which of and how many enemies are spawned, and the victory recording your actual progress and sending you back to your same spot in the previous scene, minus the enemy that you encountered.
Interesting. Those don't sound like issues.
Those don't sound like issues, no. I mean, like, the battle system I have works for, like, a very specific set of rules, but those set of rules are not built in a way that is, like, you can just drag and drop new shit in. And it really should be.
Yeah, you took some shortcuts. I could tell as soon as you explained all that shit.
I took some shortcuts because those were things that you can't really see in a devlog. You can't really see it in a video. So I just decided they were less important, and now I have to solve them.
And I was like unmasking the Wizard of Oz, or
Yeah.
uncurtaining him.
With all that in mind, I decided to do what any sensible person in my position would do.
And what was that?
I let my future self handle it in the next devlog.
Hell yeah!
Devlog number 5. It's coming to you sometime in 2023. So at this point, it's almost the holidays. I'm behind on gifts. People are traveling. COVID is a thing. I'm feeling overwhelmed, so I take a break.
Hell yeah! It's so great my good buddy Finn isn't overworking himself into a little rut.
So in the meantime, I wanted something to work on that was low stakes, high reward, and signaled to my followers on Twitter that I hadn't been thrown off the edge of the earth. Enter Bowser.
I love Bowser.
See, back when I was starting my work on Crazy's commission, I built off the base of my old Bowser model, and that shit was built bad.
Why?
Kept finding myself going back and fixing problems with the topology and scaling and just like basically everything. Like nothing was unwrapped or really textured. It was just like colored and, you know, just like using generic noise as a texture and stuff like that. I didn't change the weighting that much, but some of it was kind of strange.
Yeah, you gave him really wide hips in the beginning. I remember that.
Yeah, and it's
Like a
like
snatched weight.
I spent basically a full month doing characters. In that time, you know, I actually learned a lot about how to make them really
Yeah?
quickly and how to make them look good. And this Bowser model just didn't do any of that. The first thing I did is, you know, I fixed him up and then I unwrapped it. If you don't know what unwrapping means, it's like skinning your model like an animal pelt. Like if you're making a rug.
Yeah.
It's like you plot like where you're gonna cut it, so that when you flatten it out, you get the most surface area and the least distortion that you can get. And you also want to pack all of those pieces together in like order of scale, and the bigger they are, the more texture detail you're gonna get on there. So the more important pieces, like, you know, a character's face, are gonna be bigger and more visible. That's what I mean by unwrapping, is you're just taking all the topology and you're laying it flat. I unwrapped him, I textured him, I sewed him back up, and I slapped an HDRI on him. And an HDRI is just like a three-dimensional like lighting map. So with some minor tweaks to the rigging, he's looking good. And I was able to move him around and pose him pretty easily, and even imported him back into a newer release of Crazy's little game that I made.
Look at this. We can actually go to Bowser. Look at Poppy. Oh, look at him. He's so cute.
So with him fixed up, naturally the next step was I was going to fix up the other characters. So I did Peach next.
Beautiful.
And I was kind of thinking about stopping there, but then, you know, people on Twitter were asking if I was going to do Mallow and Gino and Mario. It wasn't a big commitment to just fix them up a little bit, so I did that, and now they all look good. Here's a full picture.
Bam.
And now it's 2023, and since then, I've only been able to do a couple more things. I did 3 more Inktober models, 2 months after October. Shaman, Big Yoshi, Valentina.
Big Yoshi.
I put together the intro cutscene. Then I put together this devlog.
You're doing so much. And also, are we actually gonna not mention a certain thing that you also did for a YouTuber?
Yeah, I did an illustration for Scott the Waz.
Scott, if you're out there, man, send me like 50 grand cash or something.
You don't have to do that.
Well, he doesn't have to.
You
but
don't
it's
have
only
to.
If he feels obliged.
If you feel obliged. But yeah, that brings us up to date. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. And a lot of that is because I made a lot of progress really quickly. I saved all of the hard stuff for later. Do you have anything to add?
I watched Puss in Boots. I think this dude did too, so we're making the next video about that, guys. So be ready for Puss in Boots.
If you're only watching the devlog because it was recommended to you,
We implore you
to check out our other videos.
Yeah, I mean, this is more like technical stuff, get into the nitty gritty, but we have fun. We have some laughs on the other videos.
We
make some silly looking things.
We draw and we talk about funny and sometimes unsavory stories that we have. We draw silly things.
It's a lot of Garfield.
A lot of
If you've ever seen Garfield or you read it, it's kind of like that. So check us out.
Yeah, but if you want to keep up to date with us, any of those videos, the game development in between devlogs, you can follow us on social media. They're at the top of the video right now. They're always there. They're also in the video description, and there's other screenshots that I'll be posting of the project on my own portfolio website at finsylvester.com.
Ooh, this man's got a .com.
Yeah.
Watch out, Zuckerberg.